What is up, everyone? This is Tyler G of Batman Figs on Instagram, and today's review is on Gotham Season 4, Episode 4. And there are three main storylines. I'm going to go over them. Well, there's three storylines. I'm going to go over the main one first, and then we'll get to the other ones. And if you remember from last week, Bruce was bidding on a knife that was of extreme importance to Ra's al Ghul, and we also saw Barbara Keene was trying to get it, and then we later saw in the episode that she herself was working for Ra's al Ghul. So at the beginning of this episode, we start off with Bruce and Alfred taking the knife to a man that is a professional and an expert at ancient artifacts and knowing what they are and reading the inscriptions on them. And so Bruce takes the knife there to get the inscription read because he has no idea what it says, and he wants to know why the knife is so important. After this, we see the guy that he's taking it to has a grandson named Alex, and he's going to be of some importance to the story. And he too is also very interested and knowledgeable with artifacts and things of that sort. That's why he's hanging out with his grandfather. He enjoys being around that stuff. And Bruce warns both of them and tells them, like, hey, you can't tell anyone the knife is here. You can't tell anyone I'm here, that I was here, because there might be people after it, and that's why, I want you to find out why it's so important. So they leave, and then shortly after they leave, the man and his grandson hear a noise, and so the man gives the knife to the grandson, Alex, and says, hey, can you go hide this and run, get to safety, keep the knife out of reach. And so the grandson leaves, and Ra's al Ghul shows up, snaps his neck, and then we realize Ra's al Ghul is not messing around. And then after that, the next shot is of the morning, and we get to see Commissioner Gordon, and Gordon is trying to figure out, who is this guy? And then Bruce shows up, and because he's worried about whether or not the knife was, I'm sure he's worried about he's upset about the death, but he's also really worried about the knife. And he doesn't know if Ra's al Ghul was able to get it or if Alex is okay and if he has the knife. And so Bruce kind of lies to him when Gordon asks, hey, do you know why this man would get killed over the knife you brought? And Bruce is like, well, I know that someone else was bidding on it when I was bidding for it. And Gordon was like, who? And Bruce says Barbara Keene. And Gordon, at this point, does not know that Barbara is alive from last season, so he's kind of taken aback. And so Bruce asks if he could go along when he interrogates her because he wants to know, what's up, who she's, why she wants the knife as well. And then after that, Gordon says, no, you can't go with me, of course not. And then that scene ends, and then we get to see Ra's al Ghul. And Ra's al Ghul shows up to see Barbara, let her know that he was not able to get the knife. And we see that he's hired two people to help with him trying to find it. One of them is this huge goon that reminds me of Ubu from Batman the Animated Series. If you remember the show and the Ra's al Ghul episode, you'll remember Ubu. And then the other one is this weird, shaved, completely hairless dog man, and they call him Anubis, and Anubis in the Egyptian culture is a god that has a dog head and a human body, but this is just some mutant freak thing that hisses and acts like a dog, but it looks like a man. It's just weird. I think if they would have went with a guy that looks like Anubis the god from Egypt, that's pretty freaky in and of itself, but instead they went with this. And the one thing I noticed a lot from the beginning of this scenes is that Ra's al Ghul looks a lot I feel like they take great importance to make his hair look like the animated series Ra's al Ghul, which I really appreciate. And his acting is also very well, and I'm liking everything I see about this Ra's al Ghul character. After this scene, we get to see Gordon show up to the bar where Barbara Keene is at and where she's been hanging out. And he's like, oh, nice to see you land on your feet. And she's like, oh, yeah. And then he's like, "Oh, you seem different," which I thought was funny because in every season she's been like acting different, like her personality's completely changed. Like the first one, she's just like the jilted girlfriend. And the second season, she's kind of like Harley, and then the third season, she's just kind of like a mob boss, and this one, she's just more like chic and trying to be elegant and like high class because she's working for a secret organization. So I thought that line was funny. And he asked like, "Hey, how are you doing all this? Like, how are you able to afford a bar and like how are you able to bid on this dagger?" And she says that she's not going to tell him. And then Bruce like snuck in, followed Gordon, and was like, "Was it Ra's al Ghul? Are you working for Ra's al Ghul?" And she kind of looks shocked at first, and then she obviously denies it. That Gordon takes Bruce out of there, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And like he reads him like his riot act, and like, "Why are you following me?" Blah blah. Bruce explains more like about Ra's al Ghul and the knife, and Gordon's kind of pissed at him that he lied. And like from after that, Bruce is a little bit more upfront with him, and he tells him the importance of the knife. And after that, he tells him about the grandson Alex, and because the reason he tells him about Alex is because they find out that Barbara doesn't have the knife. So Gordon asks Bruce, like, "So what do you know about the knife? Like, if you want to be a detective, like, here's your chance to be a detective. Like, what did the kid look like? Is there any hints, like, where he could be?" And Bruce remembers the conversation they had with him, or that he had with his grandpa about where he was, and that he likes to go to a room in this library. So they head to the Gotham library, and they do find him. But right after they find him, we see Anubis and the big thug have caught up to them. They track him down. And there's a very cool couple action sequences and fights. And Bruce does a couple cool things that make more sense than what's been going on in the first couple of fight scenes. I really like the use of where they were in the library, the use of the space they had and how they used that to their advantage. And there were a lot of also very cool camera angles and above head shots. So I really liked this scene in all. I think it was a really cool action scene and very cool set that they were on. Then after that, Gordon, he called earlier and let this one woman know to look up Ra's al Ghul and see what she could find on him. And him and Bruce, after escaping from Anubis and the big thug, who I'll say is Ubu, they head back to GCPD, and actually Bruce goes with Alex and takes him back to Wayne Manor so that they're safe. And after that, Gordon's at GCPD, and Ra's al Ghul shows up, pretending to be like a representative of his government from Nanda Parbat. And he basically warns Gordon that if they find the knife, they should bring it to him and just let him have it, because it is like an artifact of his nation. And Gordon, of course, is like doesn't buy it. I feel like he's actually stalling to keep Ra's al Ghul there as long as possible, but Alfred shows up and he straight up punches Ra's al Ghul, and so Gordon, like gets him out of the room and is like, "Hey, settle down." And then they turn around and Ra's al Ghul's gone, and it's because he found out that they don't have the knife, so he just leaves, looking for Bruce, of course. And then Bruce is with the kid, and they have a nice little moment where they connect, and it's a okay scene. It's kind of cheesy, but you realize why they do it in a couple of minutes. And after they talk for a little bit, the kid says he has a knife and he'll show Bruce where it is. It's in a lock safe, and it's at a museum. So they head there, and Alex, gives the knife to Bruce, and right as he does, Ra's al Ghul shows up, and with his little thugs, and Bruce and Alex hide around in different spots of the museum. And then Ra's al Ghul gets a hold of Alex, and he gets a hold of Alex just as Gordon shows up, and he basically, he has the knife to Alex's throat and basically tells Bruce, just give me the knife, I'll give you Alex, but if you don't, I'm going to kill him. and Gordon's just like, just do it. And Bruce is like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna give him this knife. It's very powerful. I've seen what it could do, like why people are dying over it. So I'm not gonna give it. Just give it to him. And so Ra's al Ghul kills the kid, and in doing so, he leaves like no defense or like hostage situation for him. So he's easily arrested. But Bruce is devastated that he essentially got Alex killed. And then the next scene we see Bruce like crying about it and like really upset. And then I just really wasn't a big fan of how Bruce was portrayed along this storyline. I feel like, and this is just me, I feel like Bruce, after he saw his parents' death, would be a little more hardened to that kind of stuff. And I feel like he would try to act a little bit more, I feel like he'd be more calloused. And I feel like he would, to that kind of thing. And I just feel like Bruce was very whiny in this episode and very crybaby-ish. He almost cried in every line of dialogue in the last half of the show, which was kind of annoying. I just don't feel like Bruce Wayne would do that. I know he's a kid, and Bruce has compassion, and we've seen Batman has compassion, like especially in that episode epilogue with Ace. But I don't feel like Bruce shows his compassion in a way that's like crying, almost about to cry on every word. I feel like he would be more a stoic, callous type. But that's just me. So I wasn't a big fan of how Bruce was portrayed in this episode on that front. But I thought the actor did well in the action scenes. So that's just my take on it. And that was the main story. They still have the knife. Ra's al Ghul is arrested. And they tied a bow on that story for now. That I feel like. Barbara Keene, of course, can still get him out. But we'll see where it goes from there. And then the next storyline is Penguin and Falcone. And they cut back and forth, so it's not like 1, 2, 3. They're intertwining throughout the episode. I just didn't want to go back and forth. The second storyline is Penguin and Falcone, Falcone's daughter, and she shows up as she's invited by Penguin to his club, and he basically wants to know what she's doing in Gotham. Why is she there? Is she planning on trying to take over for her father, thus trying to take Penguin's title as King of Gotham? And she explains to him she wants nothing to do with any mob dealing. She only came to Gotham because growing up she wasn't allowed because her father was afraid for her safety. And so now that she has nothing to worry about and she's grown up, she just wants to experience Gotham. Penguin believes her and he lets her go after threatening to kill her if she decides that she wants to change her mind or that she's gonna, get the loyalists that are underground. Penguin mentions that there's loyalists to the Falcone family that are underground and he's worried about them. But after that, she goes back to her house, and while she's at her house, we actually do see the loyalists show up and they call her Dawn Falcone. And she's like, don't call me that. Like, I'm not here to like run the family or get into any mob dealings or mob wars. And she's like, I don't want it's like it'd be really bad if Penguin saw you were here. And just as she says that, Penguin and Victor Zsasz show up. Zsasz kills all the 3 men, and Penguin basically says, that eases my paranoia. And Falcone says, like, oh, so you used me. You got me to go to your club so that word would get out that you were seen with me, that my dad's loyalists would find me, and you would be able to kill them and get rid of the people that would be a threat to you. And he's like, yeah. And so then she's like, oh, like you're no one. Like my dad would have like been seen with you more and made sure that people saw you so that they see that like you're no threat. And she says all this kind of thing, and he says, well, times have changed, and that's basically that little storyline. And then the other storyline with Penguin is Riddler. If you remember last week, Riddler got thought out and from the iceberg berg that he was frozen in by Mr. Freeze, but his brain was a little stagnant and wasn't quite caught up to what it used to be after being on ice for a while. So in this episode, he's trying to regain it. He's trying to get back in stride. He's trying to get himself or find himself and get back into riddles. And he tries to do riddle raps, and he sends it's like a songogram or a telegram where people sing to you, and he sends rappers to Penguin, and they're terrible raps, terrible rhymes. And after 2 of them, Penguin's just like, I'm not even gonna go to him. So Riddler shows up to him, like, why didn't you show up? And Penguin's just like, because your riddles are dumb. Like, one of your riddles could have meant anything. The real Edward Nygma would have killed himself before writing those. And he basically just belittles Riddler and just says, like, you're not even smart, like, all this stuff. And Mr. Freeze actually shows up, and he's about to freeze him again for Penguin, like, the same way. But the Riddler just, I think something goes on his head, and you can kind of see his facial expression that maybe something finally clicked and his brain's warmed up, because he starts acting like, he starts saying like, oh, you know what, Penguin, I am a loser, I'm an idiot. And Penguin kind of feels bad for him since he did have a love interest in him. And so Penguin spares him from being frozen. And then that's the end of the episode. So next we got a little preview of next week, of course, at the end of that. But what I thought as a whole of the episode, I thought it was okay. I would say it was a 6 or 7 out of 10. I like that they didn't put Bruce in the ridiculous costume because it just looks weird on him as well, just because he's so thin. But I've said that a ton. I really liked Barbara's acting. I really liked Ra's al Ghul's acting. The action was very good, even though I didn't like Anubis, the dog man. Thought that was weird. The Riddler storyline, we'll see where it goes. They didn't show too much Riddler stuff. It was very short segments of scenes with him. And we'll also see where the Falcone thing goes. Oh, the episode actually did end with Gordon showing up at Falcone's house, and they imply that they made love. So, yeah, it was a fun episode. No Catwoman was in it, no Poison Ivy, or her mentor. So there were a few characters left out. Oh, no Harvey Bullock either. A few characters were left out this week just to make it a more focused story, I suppose, which I like. So yeah, it was a good episode. Looking forward to episode 5. I'm hoping that this kicks into gear where there's a lot of momentum build into something, because it doesn't feel like there's momentum going to any story yet. It kind of feels choppy. And of course, because Ra's al Ghul's arrested, it just feels like they ended a whole little storyline. So I'm waiting to see where this episode goes, and I'm waiting to, like, at the end of the episode, be like, what? Like, I can't wait for next week. But that hasn't come yet. But of course, they're only 4 episodes in. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you want pictures, please, of action figure photography, please head to my Instagram, Batman Figs, Batman Figs on Instagram. Yeah, I hope to see you there. Feel free to comment, subscribe, like. Hope you have a great day.